Well, look, everybody, last week when Marvin Musquin took his first win of the season and made up some points on his teammate and training partner, Cooper Webb, I said the series was about to get really, really interesting. And then tonight, well, it got even more interesting. And then after the race, it got even more interesting than that, which actually in some ways makes it less interesting. Because even though Marvin Musquin won the race tonight and Cooper Webb finished fourth, the points gap between the two riders is exactly what it was before we came in to Seattle. How's that possible? First, a message from Race Tech. We've got gold valves right here. They will provide a better suspension system, plusher, better bottoming resistance, more traction, all made and designed right here in the USA. We're going to give you a set of gold valves. We do it every week. Check out the description at the bottom of this video and send an email and you will be entered. You'll also get a swag kit if you win. So thanks to the folks at Race Tech. Oh yeah, Marvin Musquin is absolutely rolling now. He's been good all year. We have pointed out statistics that in 11 of the 15 main events, that includes the multiple main event races at the Triple Crowns, 11 of 15 times before Seattle, he actually had a faster lap time in the main event than Cooper Webb. But Cooper Webb was executing. He was starting better. He was making fewer mistakes. And every time Marvin got in a position to try to pass Webb, he was unable to do it. So now Marvin has started ahead of Webb 2 times in a row and has beaten him 2 times in a row. He's also beaten everyone else. Now, what made the track in Seattle so interesting, there's that word again, was a wild set of whoops. Now, Seattle is usually rough and rutted and soft, even when it doesn't rain, and then it does rain a lot, which usually makes it even worse. This year's dirt was rock hard, and that allowed them to build big, huge whoops because they knew they weren't going to break down and just turn into a slot rut fest. So thus, the bet became, would they remain skimming difficult whoops the entire time? Or would Marvin Musquin, with his almost patented jump technique, be able to jump them and do it quickly in the main? And it worked out. Not only did he get a good start, he was ahead of Ken Roczen and Eli Tomac early, but the jumping worked for him. Roczen was skimming for a long time, but he was really only able to inch up just a little bit. And then Marvin was really fast in other sections of the course. He was really good in the sand after the finish line. He was jumping a quad in this jump lane before the whoops, and that was helping him. Kenny wasn't jumping that. So Marvin holds off Roczen and takes the win. But here comes the really interesting part. At the very beginning of the race, 2 of the fan favorites, 2 of the most popular riders, generally 2 of the most consistent and safe and injury-free riders in the field, Justin Brayton and Chad Reed both went down in a brutal crash. So the next time the riders came around, there were red cross flags out, and Marvin Musquin jumped with the red cross flags out. And this was early in the race. So for the entire race, everyone watching the race figured there was a penalty coming. But I'm going to let you in on a secret. The Supercross rulebook already tells you what the penalty is going to be. A rider will not lose a main event win if he doesn't gain positions there. In this case, Marvin was in the lead when he jumped through there. He remained in the lead. He didn't gain any positions. The rulebook says he will not have positions taken away. What he will be penalized are points. The rule says in the main event you will be penalized 2 positions worth of points, which means that Marvin would then get 3rd place points and then 2 additional points. Overall, that means a 7-point hit for what he should have scored tonight. He has 7 points removed from his total. Marvin is still considered the winner of the Seattle Supercross. He still gets the trophy. He's going to get his KTM bonus, I would assume. But Cooper Webb finished 4th in the main tonight. You want to know what the difference between a 4th place finish and a 1st place finish is? 7 points. That means that Marvin and Webb scored the exact same amount of points tonight. That is a huge dodged bullet for Cooper Webb. So we can now look at this championship 2 ways. Either Marvin is on the move, Marvin's got the momentum, Marvin's got this figured out, and Webb's in trouble. Or tonight is just another example of when it's your year, it's your year. It was okay, the 4th for Webb, but this might have been his biggest struggle we've seen since the very early rounds of the season. Even when he's been getting 4ths or even 3rds, he's at least been right there charging toward the front like he was last week. He got close to Marvin and Blake Baggett last week. He was closing on Eli Tomac a bit for 3rd, but was never a threat to win. Never really saw Marvin or Kenny up in 1st and 2nd, so that was a bit of a struggle for Webb. And these whoops were tough. That's been the one weakness. It hasn't been a glaring weakness, a huge weakness, but a bit of a weakness for Webb, and he wasn't able to get it going. Just didn't have that magic, that mojo tonight. As for Eli Tomac and Ken Roczen, look, man, the jumping through the whoops is not their specialty. It's not what they like to do. Roczen said he skimmed it for the first half of the race, then he had one trip through there that got a little sketch. He decided to start jumping. That eliminated the advantage that he had in Marvin's situation there, and he wasn't able to catch him. Tomac was trying to skim all the way to the end, and it was getting really, really difficult for him. And Webb was starting to make a run on him for third. Late in the race, Tomac started jumping the whoops. That stabilized the gap. He holds on for third. Now, considering there was a penalty and Musquin definitely gained time by jumping under the red cross when the other riders did not, it begs the question, well, would Ken Roczen, who finished second, maybe have won the race had Marvin not done that? Even Ken himself said no. He still had the entire main event to try to catch him, and he couldn't do it. And Kenny said by the time the race was over, he'd actually forgotten that it happened. He did see Marvin jump through there. Marvin, to his credit, said no excuses. I shouldn't have done it. That was my mistake. But it's fortunate. The rules were changed. You might remember Ryan Dungey having a victory taken away from him in 2016 because he jumped with the red cross. After that season, they changed the rule book. I would think it's because they don't want the fans to go home and not know who won the race. So if you're in Seattle, you saw Marvin win. Marvin is the winner. He just doesn't get all the points. And honestly, in this situation, the points mean more than the positions. So that's really going to sting. And finally, let's talk 250s. Dylan Ferrandis. This was inevitable. He had to get one of these victories. Eventually, the Frenchman finally has a night where he rides well and gets a good start combined and takes the win. Now, Adam Cianciarulo had the win streak coming into this, and his team, Monster Pro Circuit Kawasaki, had actually won 8 straight races between he and Austin Forkner. It looked like Adam might have the whole shot. He drove it in too deep into turn 1. At least he didn't go off the track like he did at Anaheim 1, but the positions lost there cost him. Now, Colt Nichols and Jimmy Dakotas were up there early. Nichols crashed. Dakotas hung on for a solid podium, but Ferrandis was able to make it happen and get into the lead. Cianciarulo said he tried to be patient and calm and maybe was too patient and calm. He did put in a late charge and started to get close to Ferrandis. Good job by Dylan for not caving under that pressure. He weathered the storm. He held back the flurry. He takes his win, and this is what makes it dangerous for everyone else. Ferrandis said that he hopes that by getting that first win, it's going to make the rest of them come easier. We've seen it happen time and time again in this sport. He's going to be a lot more calm the next time he's in that position, which is going to make him that much harder to beat. I think he's 14 points down in the series. There's not a lot of racing left in the West because there's another East round that'll be coming up in New Jersey, for example. So we'll see how this turns out. AC's still in control of the title, but that's big for Ferrandis to get it. And an interesting side note that 2 Frenchmen won tonight. That's the first time since 2000 when Stefan Mercada won in the 125s and David Villemin won in the 250 class. Villemin is the riding coach for Marvin Musquin, and he's the all-encompassing trainer and everything for Ferrandis. So a real cool trio there between Villemin and the 2 riders he works with. And it was a French night tonight in every single way but one. Marvin sure wishes he had those extra 7 points that have been taken away. But he did ride very well, and so did Ferrandis. So they pretty much painted Seattle French. So does that points penalty make it more or less interesting in the championship? I'm not sure. But I know what's interesting next time. We got a Triple Crown coming up in Houston. Oh boy. Better be there Saturday night.